Why did the creatures let Jason's family go? The Last House explained. Major spoilers for The Last House. For 5 terrifying years, Jason and his family have been trapped inside their home. They can't leave. They can't escape. And every attempt to cross the boundary outside puts their lives at risk. But after years of fear, starvation, isolation, and violence, the family finally gets a chance to escape. And the strangest part is, the creatures themselves are the ones who let them go. But why? Did Jason finally discover what the creatures wanted? Did Ruth somehow communicate with them? Or was there something much deeper behind that final decision? The answer isn't completely explained, but the ending gives us some very important clues. And according to Netflix's own explanation of the ending, the creatures spare the Delgado family after Jason finally stops fighting them. Ruth realizes that the creature may actually be communicating rather than simply attacking. And Jason ultimately trusts his daughter, puts down his weapons, and chooses not to kill it. So let's break down exactly what happens and what that final act of mercy could really mean. 1. The creature is finally captured. For most of the movie, Jason's family is completely powerless. They're trapped inside the house. The strange creatures remain outside. And every time the family tries to understand what's happening, they're met with fear and uncertainty. But eventually, the family manages to capture one of the creatures. And this is an extremely important moment, because for the first time, the humans aren't completely helpless. They finally have one of these mysterious beings in their control. Jason sees this as an opportunity. After everything his family has suffered, he believes they finally have a chance to fight back. But there's a problem. Jason doesn't see the creature as something that can be understood. He sees it as an enemy, something dangerous, something responsible for keeping his family imprisoned. And his instinct is simple: kill it. 2. Why does Jason want to kill it? To understand Jason's decision, you have to understand everything he's been through. For years, his entire life has revolved around protecting his family. The house was supposed to be their sanctuary. But eventually, it became their prison. Their food supplies disappeared, their medicine ran out, their mental health deteriorated, their relationships became strained. And Jason increasingly became obsessed with one goal: keeping his family alive. So when he finally has one of the creatures in front of him, he doesn't see an opportunity for communication. He sees a threat that has to be eliminated. And from Jason's perspective, that's completely understandable. If you spend years believing something is trying to kill your family, mercy can feel like weakness. Violence feels safer. But Ruth sees something Jason doesn't. 3. Ruth realizes the creature may be communicating. This is the turning point. Ruth begins to understand that the creature may not simply be attacking them. It may actually be communicating, and that changes everything. Because throughout the movie, the humans have interpreted almost every action by the creatures as aggression. A strange movement, an attack. A noise outside, a threat. Something approaching the house, danger. But what if they misunderstood some of those signals? What if the creatures weren't simply mindless monsters? And what if the family had been responding to every attempt at communication with fear and violence?
Ruth's realization is what finally gives Jason another choice. He can continue fighting, or he can listen. 4. Jason finally puts down his weapons. This is arguably the most important moment in the entire ending. Jason has spent the entire movie trying to control the situation. He's trying to control the house, he's trying to control the danger, he's trying to control the creatures. He's trying to control everything because he believes that's what a father is supposed to do. But eventually, he realizes that control isn't working. The family has survived for 5 years, but they haven't really been living. And now Ruth asks him to trust her. Jason finally makes a decision that is completely different from everything he's done before. He puts down his weapons. And instead of killing the creature, he lets it live. That is the moment when Jason's character arc reaches its conclusion. 5. The creature opens the door. And then comes the shocking part. After Jason releases the creature, the creature opens the door. The same barrier that kept the family trapped is suddenly no longer preventing them from leaving. The family finally has an escape route. And this happens immediately after Jason chooses mercy. The movie never gives us a scientific explanation saying this is exactly why the creature opened the door, but the connection is extremely clear. Jason chooses not to kill the creature, and the creature responds by allowing the family to leave. That's why this scene has generated so much discussion, because after 5 years, their freedom comes down to one very simple choice: mercy. 6. But why did the creature let them go? This is where we need to be careful. The movie does not explicitly explain that all the creatures suddenly decide humanity is harmless. It doesn't establish that they have a hive mind. It doesn't tell us that every creature received the same message. And it doesn't confirm that Jason's action magically changed the behavior of the entire species. Instead, the ending strongly suggests that this individual creature responds to Jason's decision. Jason doesn't kill it, and in return, the creature doesn't keep the family trapped. That's what the movie shows us. The exact mechanics are left unexplained, and that ambiguity is intentional. The film is much more interested in the emotional meaning of the moment than in giving us a detailed scientific explanation. 7. Was mercy the only thing the creatures wanted? This is one of the most interesting interpretations. Throughout the movie, humans respond to the creatures with violence. The creatures respond to humans, and the conflict continues. But what happens when Jason finally breaks that cycle? He doesn't attack, he doesn't threaten, he doesn't try to destroy the creature, he simply chooses not to kill it. And suddenly, the situation changes. That creates a fascinating possibility. Maybe the creatures weren't simply testing humanity's strength. Maybe they were responding to humanity's behavior. Maybe the real test was whether humans could stop treating everything they didn't understand as something that had to be destroyed. The film never directly says this, but the symbolism is incredibly strong.
8. Jason's character arc comes full circle. There's another important reason this ending works. Jason begins the movie believing that protecting his family means controlling every threat. If something is dangerous, destroy it. If something is unknown, avoid it. If something comes near his family, fight it. That mindset helps him survive, but it also creates problems. His determination to protect his family causes him to overlook something important: understanding. Ruth is able to see something he can't. The creature might be trying to communicate. And once Jason finally accepts that possibility, everything changes. Netflix's explanation of the ending specifically connects this decision to Jason's character arc. He had spent the movie trying to control, fix, or destroy every danger. But in the end, what he actually needed was trust. He needed to trust Ruth. He needed to put down his weapons. And he needed to accept that not every threat could be solved through force. 9. Why Ruth is so important. Ruth isn't simply another member of the family. She's crucial to understanding the ending. While Jason is focused on survival, Ruth is able to look at the creature differently. She sees something that resembles communication, and that difference in perspective ultimately saves everyone. This creates an important contrast between father and daughter. Jason represents protection through control. Ruth represents understanding through observation. Neither approach is necessarily wrong. Jason's instincts kept the family alive, but Ruth's willingness to understand the creatures is what finally gets them out. That's why Jason trusting Ruth becomes such an important part of the ending. 10. Are the creatures actually good? Not necessarily. This is another point worth emphasizing. The ending doesn't suddenly reveal that the creatures were secretly heroes. They've still caused enormous suffering. People have died. Families have been trapped. The creatures have been terrifying. So we shouldn't completely reverse the story and say the creatures were actually good all along. That's not what the movie establishes.
Instead, the film makes them more complicated. They may not be purely evil. They may have their own reasons. They may be defending themselves. And they may be capable of responding to human behavior. That's very different from being harmless. 11. The real conflict was never just humans versus creatures. This is where The Last House becomes more than a survival thriller. On the surface, it's about a family trapped inside a house while mysterious creatures surround them. But underneath, it's about fear. It's about isolation. It's about what happens when people don't understand the world around them. Jason spends years believing that survival means fighting. But the ending suggests that survival can sometimes require the opposite: listening, trusting, showing compassion. The creatures become a reflection of humanity's own behavior. Humans respond with violence, and violence continues. Jason responds with mercy, and the cycle finally breaks.
12. Why do the creatures open the doors? So if we put everything together, the strongest explanation is this. The creature recognizes that Jason is no longer treating it as an enemy. Ruth understands that the creature is communicating. Jason trusts Ruth. He puts down his weapons. He releases the creature instead of killing it. And the creature responds by opening the barrier and allowing the family to escape. The movie doesn't explain exactly how the creature does this. It doesn't explain whether the other creatures agree with the decision. And it doesn't establish that this means all humans are now safe. But it clearly connects the family's freedom to Jason's choice. Mercy leads to mercy. That's the central idea. 13. Why does the ending feel so sudden? Some viewers may feel that the ending happens incredibly quickly. After 5 years of imprisonment, the family suddenly gets their freedom, and that can feel almost too easy. But that's partly the point. The family spent years trying to solve the problem through force. They tried to escape. They tried to fight. They tried to survive. They tried to understand the creatures, and none of it worked. Then, one simple change in behavior produces a completely different result. Jason stops fighting, and for the first time, the creatures stop fighting too. The suddenness is part of the movie's message. The solution wasn't necessarily another weapon. It was a change in perspective. 14. What does the open door symbolize? The door is also extremely important symbolically. For 5 years, that door represents imprisonment. It's the boundary between the family and the outside world. They can see freedom, but they can't reach it. The house is supposed to be their home, but it becomes their prison. And when the creature finally opens the door, the symbolism is obvious. The family isn't just physically escaping. They're finally breaking free from the fear that controlled them for years. The door represents the possibility of living again, not simply surviving, living. 15. What is the movie really saying? The deeper message of The Last House isn't necessarily about explaining every detail of the creatures. It's about coexistence. According to the film's director, Louis Leterrier, the creature's message is connected to humanity learning how to live together rather than continuing to dominate one another and the natural world. That's why the ending focuses so heavily on trust and compassion. The movie asks us to think about how humans respond when confronted by something they don't understand. Do we destroy it? Do we fear it? Do we try to control it? Or do we try to understand it? Jason chooses understanding, and that choice gives his family a future. Final thoughts. So, why did the creatures let Jason's family go? The movie never gives us a completely definitive explanation, but it gives us a very strong clue. The family captures one of the creatures. Jason wants to kill it. Ruth realizes that the creature may be communicating, rather than simply attacking. Jason finally trusts his daughter and puts down his weapons. He chooses mercy instead of violence. And after the creature is released, it opens the door. The family is finally free. So, the ending strongly suggests that the creature responded to Jason's act of mercy. But it doesn't necessarily mean the creature suddenly decided humans were harmless.
And it doesn't mean every creature now wants peace.
Instead, the ending seems to show that coexistence was possible once the family stopped responding to fear with violence. That's what makes the ending so interesting. For 5 years, Jason believed that protecting his family meant destroying anything that threatened them. But in the end, the thing that actually saves his family isn't a weapon, it's compassion. And perhaps that's the real meaning behind the open door. The family didn't escape because they finally became stronger than the creatures. They escaped because, for the first time, they stopped fighting. So what do you think? Did the creature genuinely understand Jason's act of mercy? Was it communicating with Ruth all along? Or is the ending deliberately leaving the creature's true intentions unexplained? Let me know your theory in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more The Last House Explained videos, ending breakdowns, hidden meanings, and Netflix movie mysteries.